Morning, everyone. I'm Carol Hunter, editor of the Des Moines Register, and welcome to the Des Moines Register Political Soapbox. A little bit about the Soapbox. Every candidate gets 20 minutes. They can use that 20 minutes however they want. They can talk for 5 minutes or talk for the full 20, at which our timekeeper will tell them time's up. We in the Register believe in civil discourse, and we ask you to participate in the same. Please uphold the best traditions of Iowa nice and let our speaker have his say without interruption. Our next speaker is Miami Mayor Francis Suarez. The mayor is a native of Miami, and he's serving his second term, and now he's running for the Republican nomination for president. Please welcome Mayor Francis Suarez to the Soapbox.
How's everyone doing? You're back for more. I like that. Good. That means I must have said something that connected with you. So you guys say Iowa nice, and I was telling the story about Miami Vice and how we've become now Miami nice based on our homicide rate. But I want to just start because I don't like to just give the same speech over and over and over again. I think for most of the candidates, you've probably heard that. I will talk a lot about my record. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, and I want to talk a little bit about my vision for the future. But I want to start with civility because you mentioned it, and I think it's incredibly important. When I was a councilman, I realized that in the oath of office that I took, there was something missing. And so when I became mayor in 2017, I included a civility pledge as part of our oath because I do believe in civil discourse. And by the way, that doesn't mean that we agree. I've been married for 16 years. Enough said. That's all I gotta say, right? And I have 2 beautiful kids. We have parenting styles that are somewhat different. We love each other. I think she's one of my heroes. She's one of the best people I've ever met in my life. But sometimes we disagree, and the key is not being disagreeable. We can disagree. We don't have to be disagreeable. That's a lost art form in politics today. And if we truly care about making our democracy thrive and survive, we've got to get back to that. And it's okay, by the way, we can disagree vehemently. Let's just keep it civil. So a little bit about myself. My parents were kicked out of their country of birth by a communist dictator who said, give us all your property, give us all your businesses, and don't worry, we'll make everybody equal. Does that sound like a good proposition? Right. And he did. He made everybody equally poor and equally miserable. He destroyed their country. And so my grandfather, fighting for freedom, was jailed by Castro. His brother died in a Cuban jail. And my parents came here at 12 and 7, seeking freedom, prosperity, and opportunity. I'm their oldest child. My dad was the first Cuban mayor of Miami, and I'm the first Miami-born mayor of Miami. And I love this country. I think this is the best country on earth, and we should never, ever apologize for it. Thank you. We should never have to apologize, and we will never apologize for it under a Suarez presidency. But I'll tell you, as mayor, I confronted a very difficult situation, not too different from what's going on right now in Washington. Our city was broke. We had a 20% deficit difference between income and expenses, the exact same that we have at the federal government level. My city was poor, and my city was crime-ridden. Do you guys remember those, like I said at the beginning, those Miami Vice years, right? We had 300 homicides in a given year. Chicago, which has led the nation for 11 years in a row in homicides, had 700 homicides last year. You know how many we have year to date today in Miami? 17. 17. It's a 37% decrease from a 1964 per capita low. How did we do it? Shocking. We did not defund our police. We increased funding for our police. We supported our law enforcement. Shocking. They have the hardest job in America. There is no profession in America right now where people get paid less money with more scrutiny and more risk to themselves. Why don't we give them a hand of applause, please? The second thing I did in Miami was I inherited a bankrupt city, but we balanced our budget. Again, shocking. A shocking concept for the federal government. We cut expenses, and now we have the highest reserves, the highest annual surplus, and the highest bond rating. We just got downgraded in the federal government. Highest bond rating with the lowest taxes. They're not mutually exclusive. And so that is part of the record. And guess what happened in Miami? Another shocking correlation. 14% growth last year. 14%. You know what it was the year before that? 12% growth. That's the kind of growth we love to see in our country, right? The kind of growth that we love for our children to be able to enjoy. And we can and we will if we choose the right leader. Someone who understands how to create jobs, how to create that prosperity. Not because government does it, because I don't believe that government creates jobs and prosperity. Most of the time we just got to get out of the way, right? But as a leader, your attitude, your emphasis does matter. And I'll give you an example. In New York, they had won the Amazon HQ2 prize. And instead of saying, wow, this is great, we just got 50,000 high-paying jobs, they said no, and they kicked them out. At the same time in California, they kicked out this guy, I don't know if you ever heard of him, Elon Musk. They kicked him out of California. They literally put out a tweet that said, F Elon Musk. And he replied, message received, and left. And so at the same time, someone put a tweet out that said, what if we move Silicon Valley to Miami? And I replied very innocently, how can I help? And so that change in attitude, that pro-American, pro-freedom, pro-democracy, pro-capitalistic attitude is what has made us thrive and succeed where others have failed. And so when you juxtapose what's happening in our city with what's happening in urban America, you see increased crime, increased homelessness, and increased lawlessness, which is a recipe for American decline. And so what we're gonna do, if I'm president, is we're gonna balance this budget. We're gonna get to a place where we can eventually reduce taxes for the American people, because the money needs to be in your pockets, not in the federal government's pockets. We're going to confront the generational challenge that China presents to America, not just in an economic sense, but also on a national security basis. I never thought in my lifetime that I would see a repeat of the Cuban Missile Crisis, where now the Chinese want to put soldiers in Cuba where they've already put a military spy base. They're spying on us by sending balloons over, they're buying our territories, they're sending fentanyl into our country, killing 80 to 90,000 Americans a year. That's the equivalent of a 747 crashing every single day. When are we going to wake up and treat this as the crisis that it is? When it's too late? That's not the country I want my children to grow up in. I hope that's not the country you want your children to grow up in, because I think we see life similarly in that we view American prosperity as the single biggest force for good in the history of this planet. And so I'm blessed. I've done this, I'm running for president at an enormous personal sacrifice to myself, because I believe that I can win this race in 2024. Why do I think I can do that? Because I think there are 3 pockets of votes that I can get that I don't know that any other candidate can get. One of them is Hispanics. I'm the only Hispanic candidate from either party running. Thank you. And I'm not gonna call my brothers and sisters that are Hispanic Latinx, I can guarantee you that. Or I'm not gonna say that they're as unique as San Antonio tacos, okay? We're gonna win the Hispanic vote, which is 20% undecided. That's 60 million people in America. Do the math, guys. 60 million people in America, 20% of them are undecided. If the Republican Party wins a Hispanic vote, we win the 2024 election. The last 2 elections were decided by less than 100,000 votes. Okay, the second one is cities. All major cities are blue, all of them. And you see what the effect of that is. Gun violence, homelessness, destitution. In my city, in my community, we were plus 30 for Democrats the year before I got elected. The former president lost to Hillary Clinton by 30 points in Dade County, Miami-Dade County. I got elected by 85%. I got reelected by 80%. And the year after my reelection, in the midterms, we won Dade County by 10%, the Republicans. That is a 40-point swing, 4-0, 40-point swing in a major metropolitan area in this country. And the third thing is, which is unforgivable, is young voters. How can we lose voters under 30 to Joe Biden? How can we lose voters under 30 to Joe Biden? Well, that's right. If you give away the store. Exactly. But what we have to convince young people is that communism doesn't work. Waiving debt that they've accumulated doesn't work. It's never worked for the history of humanity. Bidenomics doesn't work. Whoever their branding person is needs to be fired, right? Bidenomics, Latinx. I mean, who is this person that's coming up with this stuff? Let's fire that person. I want to fire that person if I become president. We're not going to do silly brands that don't make any sense, that are not tied to reality, that are not tethered to reality and to American prosperity. And so for me, this election is actually simple. If you want to find a candidate that can win young voters, urban voters, Hispanic voters, win the GOP presidency, not just in 24, but for a generation, there isn't a better candidate available, period, full stop. And what I love about Iowans, aside from the fact that you guys allowed me to meet my first polling threshold, so thank you for that, I appreciate that, is the kind of people that you are. You're the kind of people that dig deep. You're the kind of people that care at a level that other people can't understand because you've always been first. You're the first to set the tone. And I love that. I love that. It makes me proud to be an American. I'll be honest with you. One of the biggest takeaways that I've had about running for president for the last 60 days, and my opponents have been national figures for many years. I've been a national figure for 60 days. So I'm competing from behind. But one of the things that's given me hope is coming here to this state and meeting you all. Regardless of whether I win or lose, I'm gonna go home knowing that this country is in good hands because Iowans start this process. And so I just wanna say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really do. Being someone whose country was taken away from their parents, whose property was taken away from their parents, whose family was jailed, who understands the price of freedom, coming to this state and seeing the way you approach this process is so invigorating, is so inspiring that I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for this opportunity to convey to you why I think I'm the best candidate to lead and serve this country. Think about your children and think about your grandchildren and think about who is in the best position to create the kind of prosperity and economy that's going to give them the highest probability of success. May God bless each and every one of you. And I think I have some time for questions. You, sir.
Governor DeSantis?
So I voted for Governor DeSantis, and the first part of your question is also wrong. I did not vote for Barack Obama, and I did not vote for Hillary Clinton. So whoever gave you that information, unfortunately, was not giving you accurate information. There is a congressman, though, from Miami who said on Fox News that I voted for a Democrat. And what's ironic about that congressman is he voted for Hillary Clinton, but I did not. I voted for a Republican in 2016, I voted for a Republican in 2020, and I voted for the governor in 22 against Charlie Crist. So that's my record. So I don't know, I'm sorry that you heard that, but I understand the frustration or the, the lack of trust when you hear something like that. I get it. Wow, that's the Ukrainian question is a tough question. I think we've given them $100 billion, which is more than the entire military spending budget of Russia in a given year. Russia's military spending budget is $80 billion. So we're at $100 and 25% of their entire military budget that we've given to Ukraine. I think there's a lot of concerns that we've seen in terms of them suspending the democratic process, concerns related to the accountability of those funds that are being used. The concern that I have on the other side, to be frank, is I've read a lot about Vladimir Putin. I don't know how much you guys have read about him. And it's very scary. And when you look back on history in World War II and you see what Hitler was doing, the way he was increasing his power, the way he was invading neighboring countries, it's sort of a tricky situation. Where I think we messed up is, and I said this at the beginning, is Biden's projection of weakness, right? Our incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan, which projected our inability to have a stable government when we left, people dying literally on the wings of planes and leaving billions of dollars of military equipment. If you are Xi and you are Putin and you have territorial ambitions in your lifetime, because they're getting older, right? They're advancing in age. Does it get any better than Joe Biden for them? It doesn't. It doesn't get any better. And so I think that the next American president needs to start projecting American strength, and that will help resolve the Ukrainian conflict.
Mayor, for the future of our country, IT is going to be very, very important. Militarily, economically.
Absolutely.
And we're the leading country for that because we've got the private industry. As part of your rebuild in Miami, you developed a lot of IT. What would you say on that?
Well, we need to be the leader in technology going forward. It is literally existential for us. When you see in China that they're graduating more PhDs in computer science, they have more 5G than we do, and they're focusing a lot on quantum computing, it's very dangerous. If they can break our codes, they can read our emails. If they get more advanced in artificial intelligence, they're going to have more capable weapon systems than we have. And so we need to be able to maintain that superiority going into the next generation. Otherwise, with their aggression, which before they used to be just our production arm, now we're seeing that they're taking $500 million of our wealth and they're using it to subvert us in our own hemisphere. And so it's incredibly aggressive posture that they've taken. 80 or 90% of our advanced microchips are produced in Taiwan. If they were to take Taiwan, that would not only affect our GDP. I talked to a CEO of a major chip manufacturing company. They did a study. It would affect our GDP 14%. Remember the Great Depression? That's what we're talking about, the Great Depression. Plus not having cell phones, cars. I mean, we saw what happened to the supply chain during COVID. You would multiply that times 10. Right, so we have to deal with this on a generational basis. The strongest attribute that this country has is its economy. On a per capita basis, we're at $60,000 per capita, roughly, and China's like at 8,000. So we have to continue to project American strength, but the only way we can do that is if we get our debt under control and we continue to grow, which is precisely what we did in my city. I'm gonna get him and then you. I'm gonna get him and then him. Go ahead.
Congratulate you on one of Miami's brand new citizens,
Lionel Messi.
And my question is, does the mayor get season tickets to those?
I do not, but I'll tell you this. I'll tell you why it's important, and how it influences a presidential race. When you've got a player who can go anywhere in the world and is being offered billions of dollars, but chooses to be in the United States and chooses to be in Miami, it's because we are creating the best quality of life in the world. And that is what we have to do as a country, not just as a city. And the second thing I would tell you is, when you think of me as a negotiator, right? Because, some of my opponents have, I've done well in the private sector, but they've done very well in the private sector. And their argument is, I'm a good negotiator. And I get that. If you've done well in the private sector, you can make that argument. I negotiated arguably the best sports deal in the history of America. Okay, Buffalo just gave the Bills $1.4 billion for their stadium. Tennessee just gave the Titans $1.2 billion, and I think Nevada is going to give the Raiders $1 billion. We gave the Inter Miami team $0. They're going to pay us $2 billion in revenue. And they went out and got the best player in the world, so they're making our real estate more valuable. So it was a great deal that we did, and that will project out to how I do deals at the national level. Yes, sir.
You and I talked before.
Yes.
I used to be a Biden-Harris supporter until I talked to you, and you touched my heart.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
You get on the public stage and say, in honor of Martin Luther King, I want all of you to weed out hate and buy a rose and plant that rose, and we'll change America bit by bit.
Thank you. I appreciate it. 1 minute. I got 1 minute. Guys, I just want to say, yes, ma'am. Last minute. I'm having a lot of fun here.
You gotta get the generation now and get
That's right.
everybody voting again.
Yes, ma'am. She's saying I got to get the young people to come out. Did you say I have to get the young people to come out? Is that what you said?
No, I said my granddaughter
Yes.
voted and she said Biden was president.
Yeah.
And I asked her, now what is he doing now? I said, don't violence is wrong.
Thank you. I'm out of time. I'm just going to ask you for two things, your support and your prayers. Thank you. God bless you. Appreciate you.